Yay, it worked. All righty. Oh, all right. I think we're live. Okay, yes. Sorry, it closed off for a second, but I think we're here. So, welcome everyone who is coming back for another Wellbeing Wednesday. If this is your first time, welcome for the very first time. So this is the monthly segment where we show childcare providers and caregivers like yourselves simple ways to support your own well-being, because taking care of ourselves really is, in fact, taking care of others. Whether you're an early childhood educator, a director, a parent, or someone who just feels like a parent some days, that's me. And you're sure to pick up, you're sure to pick up actionable tidbits of advice from our conversation today, which will hopefully help your overall well-being and get you back to feeling like yourself. For those of you who don't know me, I'm your host, Susanna Creed. I'm with Be Well, Care Well, Arkansas, which is a curricula concepts program that's all about supporting the well-being of our child care providers. And we have André Jones joining us today, and we will get into a lovely conversation with him in just a few moments here. So y'all know the drill. If you've been here before, I'm going to talk a little bit about our theme this month. So we're going to be focusing on social well-being and the social component based on the 8 dimensions of wellness that we talk about in Be Well, Care Well. So most of our social well-being, because of COVID over the past 2 years, has really taken a hit. Whether you're an introvert, an extrovert, an ambivert, somewhere in between, it's affected us. We've had to socially distance. We've had to move our in-person gatherings to virtual experiences, some of which were beautiful and wonderful to see open up, and others were more challenging. So today, André and I will be talking about a couple of ways that we can give our social well-being a boost. So André Jones, who is awesome, thank you again for being here. He is the co-owner and managing partner of Solutions Counseling Group, which is in Little Rock, Arkansas. The staff consists of male and female clinicians of color with the insight and experience to serve the unique needs of typically underserved populations. Andre's vast experience includes work with couples, including LGBTQ, individuals, youth and adolescents, individuals without homes, all while using a myriad of other individual therapeutic interventions. So his passion is helping to heal relationships, whether romantic, family, or even professional. Thank you again so much, André, for joining us. And finally, we get to hear someone else's voice besides my own. But I want to start us off today, and just because you have the social work background and so much, in marriage and family therapy as well, can you tell us a bit about your perspective of what is social well-being or social supports, and why is it important for us to have conversations about that and to think about it for ourselves?
I think social well-being is important because whether we realize it or not, nobody does anything alone. Everybody needs somebody sometime. For example, how did you get to work this morning? You may think, oh, I got in my car and I drove and I came by myself. Okay, that's all well and good, but I'm guessing you probably don't know how to build a car. You probably didn't pave the roads that you drove to get here. You did not design the street lights. You did not put up the road signs. Everybody needs somebody at some time. Social well-being, especially for people who are introverts like myself, just the words can be anxiety-inducing. But I frame it as learning to show up for people before you need people to show up for you.
Huh.
Basically,
can you repeat that? That was really good.
I frame social well-being as learning to show up for others before you need others to show up for you.
Mm.
Basically, you're building a reservoir of goodwill. That's just whatever way that looks like for you being present for those around you, because your turn is coming. Your time is coming. And it may not be that you want like a whole gaggle of people around you, but at some time you're going to need somebody for something. So social well-being is not just socializing, is identifying and utilizing your village.
Ooh, I'm just like just want to hear all of that. And I was like, oh, I want to hear that again. And then I realized, oh, wait, we're actually recording. So we can all look back at this. This is great. Because that is a really cool way to put it that I did not even think about. But I mean, it's so true, right? Just this idea of kind of, we talk about social supports, and that's a really great way to build resiliency. And we all kind of have heard this, but it's this idea of doing that and building those supports before things hit the fan, kind of thing. Like
Exactly.
you got to invest in that when things are good, when things are okay. That's actually probably the best time to say, who in my life can I depend on, and how do I foster that relationship, as
Absolutely.
opposed to that. Oh, that's so good. I'm taking that for my own life, like 100% right now. Like, I know we're here for everybody watching, but also 100% I am thinking about that for myself. So and I love, especially, that you are an introvert as well. I,
Mhm.
as a big extrovert, if you couldn't tell, I love introverts. Like, I love people who are different than me and who have different experiences. And I think it's so interesting and fitting for you to kind of share your perspective on that as well. Because even though I'm extroverted now, I was a really shy kid, like painfully shy and introverted. And then for whatever reason, I had a switch flipped. I blame college. I don't know. I just was like, let me talk to everybody. But, I want to kind of hear a little bit more about, and this can be in your professional work or in your personal life, kind of whatever you want to share. But how can somebody who does find themselves being more introverted, maybe not being so into the socializing piece, how can they start to pour into others to strengthen those social connections so that if and when they need it, like you said, they're there?
Well, and the first thing I want to do is clear up a bit of a misconception. Being introverted does not necessarily equate to being shy or even social avoidance. Being an introvert, a genuine introvert, means I recharge and replenish by going somewhere off to myself. As an introvert, I love being invited into social situations. I love getting the invitations. I might not always come because it's a little overwhelming,
Mm-hmm.
but I can go into situations and I can socialize, but I can only do it in bursts. You know, after a certain amount of time, because there's so much energy moving in the room around you, and I am highly
Mm-hmm.
sensitive to the energy of others. So I'm absorbing all of that. If somebody's sad, I feel that. If somebody's angry, I feel that. If somebody's happy, I feel that. And it gets to be too much. So I have to remove myself. That's why in a lot of social situations, I'll be the center of attention one moment and in a corner the next
And
because
then be done. Yep. And then be done.
yes, yes, I've had my feel. So that's the first thing to remember. If there's someone in your life who's an introvert, don't stop inviting them. Don't stop asking them, oh, they're not going to come anyway. They want the invitations, they want to come, but they also need your compassion and understanding when they reach their limits to say, okay, I came, I saw, I've got to go. And again, that goes back to building a reservoir of goodwill. For my part, I'm building that goodwill in that I'm showing up and being present in the way that I'm able to. And then for those around me, their reservoir of goodwill is that level of understanding and level of compassion of not setting expectations on me to be present the same way that someone else who may be more outgoing or more extroverted than I am.
Yes, absolutely. Um, I would love for people who are watching and in the comments, do you feel like, especially hearing now this idea about what introversion and extroversion is, do you find yourself maybe being more of an introverted person? Or do you relate more to this idea of maybe it's, I like, I get my energy when I'm by myself, but I also enjoy being with people? Or is it like, that more shy thing as well? And sorry, if I'm looking around, it's because I think we're having some technical difficulties and I'm not sure why. So I might be going back and forth a little bit. I apologize for anybody here who's having that. Oh, awesome. We have some people responding to that already. Yay. Someone's like, I love people, but definitely an introvert. Um, So and thank you for clarifying that as well. That was something that I kind of struggle with at first, because I'm still shy, or I was shy and I was introverted before, where I mean, I could not be in a group of people for a while. I was like, how I recharge and fill my cup is I need to be away, alone, whether that's taking a nap, reading a book, you know,
Right.
doodling, doing something creative, watching TV where I can like zone in and kind of refill. Um, and then it's interesting because I can still be shy, but now I get my energy from larger groups, like I have a hard time with one on one because one on one is very intensive. And as an introvert, I used to love that. That was great. But now that is so hard. And I'm like, let me get into a group of 10 people and that fills my cup. And so it's interesting how it can even shift over our lifetime.
Absolutely.
Um, yeah. And it's really fun. Um, yep. Okay. And someone else said, I am pretty extroverted with social situations. I love just being myself, but I definitely need time to decompress to myself as well. Yes, indeed. So I love that you've brought that up. Um, and I'm wondering as well, whether somebody is introverted or extroverted, or, kind of talking outside of that, what are some other ways that when we're busy, there's so many things going on, but we know we need to build the support network. What are some like kind of quick-ish or small actionable tips that we can kind of implement easily, if that makes any sense? So how can we break it down from, oh, I have to, spend an hour with every friend every week? That's a lot to go on. So what are some ways to maybe break it down and make it seem more doable?
Okay. Well, the first thing I would recommend is just checking in with yourself and seeing and figuring out exactly what it is that you're needing to recharge your social battery. Um, like I said, it may not be that you need an hour with every friend. It could be, in light, we're talking to people who work with children, and in light of the tragedy that happened last week, it
Mhm.
could be, okay, in order to recharge right now because so much is happening, I just need extra hugs from people around me, or I just need to
Mhm.
hug the kids a little bit, extra this week. Find out exactly what it is you need. Some people may need more quiet time. Okay, life is loud, life is crazy, but just to process this, just to recharge and be able to go forward, I need a little extra quiet time and need a little more time away from myself. Some of it may be
Mm.
I need more time with family and friends. Or it could be, I just need to move. I need to go climb Pinnacle. I need to walk in the park. Figure out exactly what it is that you need, and then be intentional about engaging in those things that recharge your social battery. And communicate it to those around you as well. If you need extra hugs, don't sit back and wait or try to position yourself just right and maybe they'll come hug me and say, hey, you know what? It's a little bit tougher today than other days. I could really use an extra hug if you think about it, or if you have time, or if you're okay with it.
Oh,
Just be intentional.
those are such good suggestions. Wow, I'm just like, I've learned by taking notes. So I'm just like, I really want to take notes right now for myself. Talking about like, what is it specifically that you need to recharge, and breaking it down that way. So it's not just, oh, I need to call a friend. Like for me, that does not recharge me. That is like an endeavor. Like I have to psych myself up for a long phone call to catch up. Whereas I would love hugs. And I know that there's certain people, we're still in COVID times. So there are certain people that I feel comfortable, like, yes, you are in my bubble and I feel good and you can hug me. But I love what you added on to that, which is not just identifying it for ourselves, right? For social well-being, it really is about practicing the communication as well. So if I know I need hugs, but I don't tell anybody in my family, and then I get to the end of the week and I'm resenting them, like, oh my gosh, why have they not been there for me? It
Right.
it have I communicated it? And that's part of investing in that social well-being, is practicing that communication. And for those of you who are out there who are like, the communication is the hardest part, like, I don't want to do that, you know, and especially sometimes we feel like communicating our needs is weakness. And even though we know it's not, and I want to confirm for everybody,
Mhm.
it is not weakness. It is actually a sign of strength to be able to communicate what you need. It truly takes strength. So know that that is you being courageous and wonderful. Um, but this idea, there we go. But this idea of, I have to also communicate, and trying to think about, okay, is there one person in one instance that I can say, hey, I need hugs this week. I only feel comfortable telling you, but I just want to practice telling you what I need. Or, hey, can you tell me that things are okay a little bit more this week?
Exactly.
You know, and finding
Exactly.
maybe one person and trying it there. And then I think we actually had a question, communication. We have some people who are like,
Well, Susanna, there is a philosophy that I live by. You know, people who struggle
mhm.
with communicating or reluctant to communicate. I tell people all the time, when things happen, when you're going through things, people are always so quick to say, "Oh, if there's anything I can do for you, just let me know." My philosophy is make them mean it.
Mm.
Make them mean it. When people say, if there's something I can do for you, let me know. Put it to the test. Give them something. And it doesn't have to be anything huge. It doesn't have to be, give me $500. You know, it could be, you know what? Can you watch the kids while I step outside and just have a few minutes quiet time to myself?
Yeah.
Can you take little Timmy, who's usually a challenge for me, and he's a little bit more than I can deal with today. Can you just reassure me if I look over at you, just kind of nod, let me know everything is going to be okay? And you'd be surprised
Oh,
at
I
the number
love
of
that.
people in your life, that are willing to do things that's really not a big deal to them, but can go a long way to helping you feel supported, can helping you feel connected, and helping you feel just socially recharged, and helping you through those stressful times.
Yes, absolutely. I love that because we have quite a few teachers, you know, who are co-teachers. And so they do have that ability to say, hey, if I look at you with a face that says I'm struggling, can you like give me a nod? Can you tell me it's going to be okay? You know, it's the little things for sure. Um, and we actually have a question for you as well. So, Jamie asked, since we have to socialize and work virtually still in some cases, how do we meaningfully engage less social individuals in that setting? So, for instance, we do trainings that are virtual, and maybe somebody doesn't really connect when it's virtual, or maybe they find themselves being more shy or feeling more overwhelmed if they're an introvert, like with a large training that's online. So how could we possibly engage with them in a way that's authentic, and meaningful, and helps to build their social capital too? It's kind of a tough question, but I want to see what you have to say.
No, it's not, because I completely understand what Jamie's feeling. This has been the hardest thing for me too, the virtual. I,
Mhm.
like I said, I'm very big on energy exchange and feeling people's energy and being in the room with people. So this has been a challenge for me. What I have found works for me is when I am, because I think what a lot of people have started doing when they engage in virtual communications like Zoom meetings and Teams and things like that, they tend to do it multitasking. For me to feel connected, I have to eliminate distractions. I can't
Oh,
have another screen going. I can't, oh, I'll just listen in the background while I work on this. I have to be present. I have to be focused in order to be engaged and to have any semblance of connection.
yeah. And that's a hard one, to be able to fully unplug and be present. Um, but I think that is a conversation that we can have with people who we're training, of just, you know, how important it is to reduce those distractions, which is ironic because of course I'm also like watching the chat right now. So what that tells me is I need to be able to find another way to reduce those distractions, so that I can be more present here, and that can build my social capital, but also allow me to possibly build our speakers like yourselves, or the people who are watching, because there's that presence there. So I think kind of maybe reiterating why we're saying it's important to reduce those distractions. It's not just, hey, we want you to pay attention, but it's, hey, we want to really help you build your social capital in this venue, in this
Yes.
virtual venue sort of thing.
I mean, for me, it's more helpful if everybody has their camera on when we're in a Zoom meeting. And it can be overwhelming when there are 15, 20, 100 people on a Zoom, but it's helpful for me because I can put a face to a voice, or I don't feel like I'm just in a room staring at a blank screen with a bunch of names on it. I can actually feel connected and somewhat better engaged if I have something visual to go along with what's going on around.
Yeah. Oh, such great pieces of advice here. And I'm wondering too, I want to see anybody who's watching, please feel free to put any questions you have. We do have a few minutes. So if you have questions for André, and I don't know if you'd have questions for me, I'll pipe in, I guess, but feel free to type them in the comments. I am watching that. Like I said, that's the multitasker in me for the moment, just by necessity, but I'll be able to see those comments as well and share them. So while we're seeing if anybody else has any other comments, I want to see, if you can kind of give us some of the biggest takeaways that it's like if people got only these few things from our conversation today, what do you think are the most important that they should remember and take away?
Again, check in with yourself and figure out exactly what it is you're needing, and be intentional about engaging in those things which recharge and refuel you. And then conversely, be mindful of things in your routine that are added levels of stress. Media consumption. Social media is great. I love social media. It has allowed me to connect with people, that I haven't seen in years, or people that I've never physically laid eyes on, but we have this social connection. But I also have to be mindful because I read the news online every day. I have to be careful how much I'm reading, how much I'm taking in. I have to check in with myself to recognize, okay, this coverage has been going on for 24 hours and I've been reading 22 hours worth of coverage. Let me unplug, let me back away, let me de-stress, because whereas, mindlessly scrolling is something that you do to relax, depending on what you're engaging in, depending on what you're consuming, it can become a part of the stress when it becomes overwhelming as well.
That makes sense. Checking in with yourself, seeing what you need to fill your cup, and being intentional about adding those and supporting. And then also figuring out what are those things that are optional, maybe, that decrease or that add to your stress, and taking those out or reducing them somehow. And then I also love this, what you mentioned about once you kind of know what you need, start small and communicate with maybe one person in your life and say, hey, this is something I need right now, or I could use. Are you willing to help with this? And again, it can start small. Now, if you're the type of person who's like, I want everybody to know and I want to start telling everybody, great, go for it. Go Glen Coco. But if you're the type of person who's like, I don't know about this, but I think I should try it with one person, really small, and just kind of keep that up and then just add to it as well. We do have one last question that I think we have time for. Someone says, although we are in social media viewing this, what is your thought of doing social media fast and learning to replace that with actual social physical contact, if that makes sense? Oh, social media fast, like taking Got it. You probably got that, Andre. I needed to repeat it for myself. But replacing the social media contact with actual social physical contact. What's your take on that idea?
Like I said, social media is a wonderful thing, but I think there is a place and a definite need for social physical contact as well. I would never tell anybody how much social media is too much. Uh, that goes back to checking in with yourself. Like I said, I stay on the news sites and I'm reading all kinds of stories, not just like world events. I'm reading the entertainment, I'm reading the sports, I'm reading, the political, I'm reading it all. And sometimes I have to say, okay, you know what? My eyes are crossed. I've been here. I have to check in with myself and say, okay, I'm taking in too much. This is consuming my day. This is consuming my time. Uh, and if it's taking you away from making those connections with other people, you know, uh,
Yeah.
I think it was Adam Sandler had the movie where he had the ability to speed through time, like the difficult sections in his life.
Oh yeah, what was it? Click, I
I
think
think
it
so.
was.
I think so.
Yeah.
But he was zooming through, basically distracting himself with all this other stuff. When he got to the end of his life, he realized he'd missed these moments, these opportunities for connection, simply
Mm,
because it was a little challenging for him.
yeah. I
When you
think
get
that's
to the end of your journey, you're not going to reflect on how many Yahoo News stories you read. You're going to reflect on
you're
the
not
moments.
what?
You're not. You're not.
Oh
Because
man.
honestly and truly, as many Yahoo News stories as I've read in the past 2 days, I can probably tell you three of them. But I can tell
Yeah.
you every moment my siblings and I laughed together. I can tell you moments that I had with my high school classmates. I can tell you, the times my coworkers and I went out for lunch and just had those moments. Those are the times. And so if social media or any type of electronic stimulation is preventing you from engaging in the social physical contact to the point you recognize it's outweighing building genuine connections, building that reservoir of goodwill, building a social capital, then it may be
Hmm.
something to consider.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. And something that I've heard from people is it's like also, this idea of if you're finding yourself feeling worse afterwards, like if you're
Yes.
on social media and then you feel worse than when you started, or if it's negatively impacting you. Like, so for me, for instance, the Instagram travel
Yeah.
things that I see, I'm comparing my day-to-day life with somebody
A
else's
lot of
highlight
things that are
reel.
not even real. Yeah.
Exactly. It's like, how long were they trying to get that one photo on the rock? And I'm thinking that that's the type of life that I want. Like that, it's like you said, it's like click. It just goes through everything so quick and it's not comparable. So when I notice that that's making me not appreciate what I do have, okay, that's a barometer where I'm like, all right, maybe this is not the best use of my time. So I
And then
love
too,
that.
social media fast, it kind of has a negative connotation that's probably not fully deserved. Uh,
Mm.
a social media fast doesn't have to mean, 40 days, 40 nights like Jesus in the wilderness. It could simply
I
mean,
guess he didn't have Instagram.
right. It could simply mean I'm only going to consume so much of one topic for so a certain amount of time per day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that you're also breaking it down by the topic. It's not necessarily the time, but let's look at what topic and kind of diversifying, just like what we're talking about building our social capital. It's diversifying what we need and looking at that. Oh man, I feel like I could just keep talking to you all day. I do know that the people who are with us today probably have to get back to their kiddos or, go eat their lunch, or hopefully you've eaten your lunch during our time together. So again, thank you so much, Andre, for joining us today and for sharing these
For having
amazing
me.
tips and perspective on social well-being. I'm definitely taking a lot from this. So, and from all the comments, I mean, we got a social chat going. Like, this is probably one of the chattiest things that I've seen on
Yay.
our Wellbeing Wednesday in a hot minute. So go you're already stimulating it. So we're gonna move to close our this is our 14th episode of Wellbeing Wednesday. Yeah, I know, it's like, whoa. But I want to make sure to just remind everybody, if you want to have more access to our Wellbeing Wednesdays in the future, and also different offerings, and we have different tips that we share along the way and other trainings, please make sure to follow Curricula Concepts on Facebook and Instagram so you don't miss a thing. If you like today's show, please feel free to share it with your friends, family, and coworkers. We are going to have a replay, and the video is going to be on our Facebook page, and we're also going to put it on our Curricula Concepts YouTube page. Yay! And if you are a childcare provider and you want to learn more about enrolling in Be Well Care Well, or if you just want to learn more in general, my information is in the comment section, along with a link to our application and to learn more. So please feel free to email me or check those things out if you want to learn more. So I will finally wrap by saying this has been another wonderful Wellbeing Wednesday. I'm your host, Susanna Creek, and I'm wishing you well for the rest of your week. Bye, everyone.
Bye.